Hey church family, thanks for joining us again for today's Daily Connection video right in the middle of the week as we are talking about how our lives should be marked by love if we're going to remain in Christ. Brother Brent walked through verse 13 with us yesterday, kind of explaining how we can bear with one another, how we should offer forgiveness to others just as Christ has offered forgiveness to us. And so we know that we're going to have conflict in our lives, right? It just happens. And certainly there's conflict in the church. Always has, always will be. I'm not talking about specifically our church. I mean, all churches, including our church, will have conflict in them. And certainly the church at Colossae was having some conflict and disunity in it. There was this Colossian heresy that existed. Where people were saying that Christ wasn't fully God, and that there was some people were saying you had to do this thing in order, you had to have some kind of special knowledge in order to be saved, plus Christ. Some people were saying you had to have this physical deprivation or asceticism in Christ to be saved. Some people were saying you had to have this angel worship and Christ. Some people were saying you had to attend these festivals or be circumcised. There were all of these different cultures and pagan and Jewish faiths that were trying to all combine together with Christianity, even though it wasn't called that at the time. It was just called the Way. And what was happening was these great heresies were being taught there in Colossae and even in other churches, but Colossae obviously the key here. And so Paul is writing to them, trying to, in the first part of Colossians, explain to them, hey, this is what this heresy is, and this is why it's heresy. This is why you need to cast it out. You need to have nothing to do with it. But whenever you have all of those different ideas beginning to trying to merge all at once, man, there can be a lot of confusion. And there can be a lot of disunity that happens because all of these people, one, are having to admit that they are all wrong, right? That every one of them is wrong, that all of their thoughts were wrong, and that they need to be recentered on what the way or Christianity truly was. And so I believe it's no mistake that Paul has this section here as he's explaining to Christians how to live a new life, telling them, as Brother Brent talked about yesterday, to bear with one another. And then he gives them a target to look at in this short verse that we're going to look at today in verse 14. As he's given all of these different characteristics that they need to have. We talked about those 2 days ago. Brother Brent talks about forgiveness. Then he says, above all. When we see the phrase above all, we know that this is of the highest importance. This is the most important part that he is saying here in this section. He says, above all of this, put on love. Above all, put on love, right? Love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and mind. And the second is as important as the first, to love your neighbor as yourself. I believe a real important guy named Jesus may have said that. And here we are. Paul is saying something similar. Above all, put on love, which is the perfect bond of unity, right? There are things that exist that can unify us, but nothing unifies the church like love unifies the church. And that love is being outpoured from Christ himself. When we recognize the love that's been poured out on us, and we can all unite around the gospel, unite around the work of Christ in our lives, then that same love can be poured out to each other. And we can be unified in the way that God always intended his bride, the church, to be unified. Our author gives us a couple of questions that we need to look at. The first is, why is love so important? What about love is so important? And then the second question, how does unity in Christ serve as such a powerful picture in our broken world? In this world that is full of disunity, especially today, right? Just tons of unrest and disunity in this world that is so broken. How does unity in Christ serve as such a powerful picture? I hope you'll take a moment to think through that. And I hope you take it just a step further. As you see how it serves as a powerful picture, then you begin to think to yourself, and I to myself, then if it is this powerful picture, how can I show the love of Christ to others? Church family, I hope that you will take that seriously, take a moment to do that, and find a way to apply it in your day today. We want you to know that as you do that, we love you and we're praying for you.